very typical. We only had one district in the area that did not charge. So if questioned about it, I think the one part that I would talk about is that it is a cost to the school district then, that we would lose that revenue, and we would have to try to offset that someplace else. So being free or reduced, or being, having additional needs, that does not impact parking. If you need a parking permit, you have a vehicle, therefore you pay for the parking permit. So it does not recognize like, hey, so I qualify for free lunch, therefore I park for free. And we don't have a policy like that.
Okay, any discussion on these general school fees resolution?
I hope that you guys will consider amending, when I do bring it forward here shortly, the parking fee to remove it. It is a thing that I hear quite a bit about in the community, not only last year, but I heard more this last year as well for this year. And just taking even going from 35 to 50, number one, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I understand it's about $3,000 in revenue. Here's the thing, there is court cases out there, especially in California right now, of challenging parking fees. I think that number one, we are a very unique community, heard it all last time, that we don't provide busing in town unless those that specifically need it. That because of the uniqueness of our community, we've got people picking up children over here, going to sports, going to work. I just think of my daughter, the many times that she had to go from here to there to pick up kids, to go back to school to do stuff for the school, and then we charge them parking. I think that if we charge any student parking, number one, then I think that we, the Board of Education, should pay parking fees. Every single district person that works in the district should pay parking fees as well, and then I'm okay with it. If we're not charging us parking fees or anyone else in the district, I think it should move. And with that, I'd like to amend this to take out parking fees and put $0. This resolution.
Okay, motions are made to amend the resolution 1920-19 to remove the parking fees. Is there a second? By Joe. Is there a second to that? Hearing none, the motion dies. Any other discussion on the general fees resolution? Joe?
No.
Aye.
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 Motion carried 4-1-2. Sorry, 4-1-1. Don't give up.
Hey, by the way, I'm smiling over here. You just can't help it.
You're getting more and more attention, so.
I'm listening to him, just so you know.
I'm listening
Absolutely.
more.
Yeah.
When I got on the board originally, I eliminated all fees for everything that we had money. And then I found out later, by doing that, we got less money from the state. Okay,
By not having fees.
by not having fees.
Okay. Resolution 1920-20, approval of fall sports coaching contracts. Motion?
So moved.
Joe, second by Jim. Tom?
Yes. Not a lot of changes in the fall coaches from last year. The football staff, we're bringing Russ Grundy back. He took the year off to be with a change of his job with his cognitively disabled son. And he is taking John Klavacek's spot there as a halftime varsity football assistant. Everything else remained the same. At the current time, we are still in need of a JV boys soccer coach. I've been working with Bill Brownlow, one of our social studies teachers, and working with the soccer community to try to find a varsity or a JV soccer coach for the boys. Change in tennis. John Wild resigned last year. John Wild resigned last year, and Sig Checker, a FIAD teacher, was our assistant tennis coach. She will be the head tennis coach. We're still searching for a tennis assistant, but we're kind of waiting on numbers for that as well, whether it's needed or not. John Wild has graciously offered to help with the transition and such. So that's where we're vacant there. We also are in search of a JV2 volleyball head coach, our freshman girls volleyball. I just received my second potential candidate via email today, passed that along to Sarah Pershaw, our head coach. I like to allow the head coach to work and find their assistants and bring them to me, rather than, I don't want to be in the business of hiring a volleyball coach, because I'm not qualified to hire them, other than their character. Other than that, everything is status quo for last year. The bold up there is just the updated years of experience and the current stipend based upon what has been approved in the past by the district policy.
Any questions for Tom on these coaching contracts?
I just kind of had to chuckle when I saw Bob Berry 80 plus.
Yeah,
I thought
that
it
should
was-
be 80
Yeah, I
plus.
thought it was 80, and that's why I looked closer.
Don't tell myself that's right. That's as high as it goes.
Joe?
Aye.
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 Motion carried 5-0-1. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Resolution 1920-22, approval of transportation bus handbook.
So moved.
Motion by Joe,
Second.
second by Dave.
Travis was here.
You got called out.
Everything there, I believe, is a technical edit. Janet, did you help him with the edits in the bus, the transportation book, or did he handle that on his own?
Do you want me to get him?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I took him up the
He
line.
Is
just
that-
gave me the bus.
Right, what were the changes? Can you be able to speak to me?
Just names and dates and,
Sorry.
he was,
The bus handbook.
Yes, the only thing that's really changed this year is the staff, the dates, and the wage for routes.
So when you
much
say wage
increase
for
did you
routes,
get?
go to the page, what page is that going to be?
It's clear to the end,
Okay.
or almost to the end. And you'll, oh, go back, you're too far, sorry.
Page 20, 27.
Good job.
There you go, sorry. I don't- So, yeah, we have the new rates, and then the old rates from last year.
And already, these are already predetermined.
What's that?
So this number right now, the 24.21 to 24.73,
Yep.
is that a CPI increase? Where did that number come from?
Yes, that was last year's CPI increase.
So that's a 2.44%?
Last year's, not this year's, but last
Yeah.
year's, yeah.
Do you have the bus mileage on the end?
I do not.
I like that.
Dick, I know you do.
We
and-
thought that was just a resource that didn't
Yeah.
need to be put in the handbook.
Okay.
Keeping
But it
track
was-
of that
it
is a
was-
good
It
idea.
was handy for me to find it all.
Yeah, well, we're gonna
I'll
correct
give you a
that.
copy.
Okay, real good. I love that.
Any questions for Travis? On the bus handbook. Joe?
Aye.
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 Motion carried 5-0-1.
Thank you.
who was, yeah. that was-
And I think this got transferred into a Google Doc. Joe, just so you know, we're looking at, did you have it on a Word document before?
Yes, I think it was.
Okay, so as it got transferred into a Google Doc, it is officially messed up as far as formatting, so you probably have a good a couple hours cleaning it up before it
Okay.
goes out,
All right.
so.
The secretary can handle that.
And having it in a Google Doc, great for collaboration, making edits and
Sure,
tracking changes,
absolutely.
but in the meantime, that one time you transfer over is a little bit extra work.
Absolutely.
Something's off with that. So, all right,
Okay, resolution 1920-23, approval of employee handbook. Joe,
Second.
second by Dick.
okay, this document, is this also in Google Doc? This document just has our updated mission vision in it. It also includes information that reflects the health savings account that's been added in. And that is really it. A lot of numbers changed and it looked great before. So this also was transferred into a Google Doc. And we are going to be sending out a Word document. So you can look at this. Please do not look at the cosmetics. So Janet, you uploaded it as
I uploaded, it's
it
not
should be a
Google Doc.
PDF. Yeah, so upload them as PDFs moving ahead.
I did the last time, but I made that
Yeah,
big change, so
okay.
I,
Got it. So yours very well could be good then, because this one was perfect before, and right now it's just look at the content, not the technical edits in it. So there's a section that has a change that reflects the health savings account. Other than that, updated names, updated numbers, 100% current. We didn't bring it forward last year, and it needed some updates. So all the maps are updated. So we have an employee handbook, which is the base. Then we have the support staff and the teacher. The support staff and teacher handbook, or professional staff handbook, those are coming. So those will be done before school starts.
Any questions on this resolution for the employee handbook? Joe?
Aye.
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 Motion carried 501. Resolution 1920-24, approval of the Parkview Middle School and High School handbook.
So moved.
Motion by Dick,
Second.
second by Joe.
So I'll speak to the Parkview primary one. All of the handbooks were transferred into the Neola template. So you can see on here 2019 Neola. So that was the biggest piece. So to make sure that our handbooks are in alignment with our policies. So what Becky did was she folded her content from the Parkview Primary Learning Center into the Neola template. They'll be able to speak to theirs. So it has a little bit of new Mayville bling in it. It has all new staff members and new staff numbers. So it looked very current when I reviewed it. There's no big changes in policies and handbooks this round that I saw. So they may be able to speak to something maybe that happened in their middle school and high school handbooks. But it's all pretty straightforward. In here, she does include resources about the Cardinal Way, and which is our PBIS initiative. So in alignment with our policies. So if I'm a parent, this is a great resource. Board members, I think you'd be looking at policies. All of these things are just, all of our policies included in here pretty much.
Any questions on this resolution for the Parkview Middle School and High School handbook?
This case still had-
Oh, sure, sorry.
Thank you, John. At the middle school, again, as Scott said, we went to the Neola format. Much of ours was in the Neola format previously. We did do some formatting changes and clean some things up. We made an adjustment to the start time. Previously it was 8 o'clock, going to 7:45 at the middle school. We do not have any recess or lunch times in our handbook at this time, but when those are determined after schedule is finalized, we'll have recess and lunch time on there, so those are to be added yet. We emphasize the cell phone as a distraction and our ability to respond to that per the board policy. And also we do some additional language on cameras on buses with the movement towards putting cameras on buses in the future. And those are the changes that were made from last year.
Thanks, Bob. At the high school, as you know, any changes were crossed out and rewritten in blue, or anything that is new in blue with the additions. One thing I'll draw attention to is that, and you'll learn more about this as we start the year, we're looking to implement something called cardinal scores, where each teacher can basically assess kids' behavior on respect, responsibility, and safety. Those are put in here. We're still working with our faculty teams to determine what those points will be, but we did want to introduce the idea. Tom and I and our staff have worked a little bit on what privileges kids can earn. By having 3s and 2s within the building, that would be a change. And then Tom, we also phrase things as level 1 and level 2 now versus tier 1.
Yeah, there was, in the previous handbook, there was minor and major. In the co-curricular handbook, it was referred to as tier 1, tier 2. So now the language is, and tier 3 actually. So now it's all level 1, level 2 in our high school handbook.
And then obviously some typical cosmetic changes from course options to early college credit. And then we also updated our staff directory. And then you'll notice that our school day is 7:50 to 3:20. At times it appeared differently in different things, from 7:48 to 3:20, 7:50 to 3:18, but we are 7:50 to 3:20. Now, any questions on this resolution for the handbooks for the Parkview Middle School and High School? Dick?
Aye.
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 Motion carried 5-0-1. Resolution 1920-25, approval of 2019-2020 co-curricular handbook.
So moved.
Motion by Dave. Second by Joe. Okay, Tom.
Okay, a couple minor changes in the co-curricular handbook. I did work with a group of coaches at the high school level, and then I sat down with Mr. Zarnot, and we went through them all together as we went through the handbook. And Mr. Clark and I did the same thing with the middle school handbook to keep the language very similar, if not exact. In section 2, we have in our code, if you want to scroll up a little bit there, right there. Right. The tiered conduct violations that was in the code dealt with level 1, or tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 offenses. So tier 1 and tier 2 were behavioral in nature. So what we did is we replaced that whole section with a paragraph that gives myself and Mr. Zarnot the ability to go through each referral based upon the severity and the frequency to determine if suspensions are warranted. So it's consistent with level 1 and level 2 in the student handbook, because a level 1 rule of 3 turns into a level 2 consequence.
So that means a student is removed from the classroom, that's a behavioral referral. Then another day they're removed from the classroom, that's a behavioral referral. And those are the kind of things that typically I have not seen as code violations in the past.
Right.
With the way that the language was very linear before,
Correct.
those potentially resulted in a code violation before.
Correct.
Got it. So,
And
yeah.
now we have the ability to investigate those, just like I investigate every referral, whether it's an athlete or just a student. I talk to every student for their behavior, I talk to the teachers, and then we make decisions together. Usually, if I have questions, I go with Mr. Zarnot, we collaborate on those to determine is there.
So a referral that results in disorderly conduct, a police referral, disorderly conduct,
Yes.
that's a code violation.
Exactly.
But a referral that ends up being somebody sent to the office or taking a break.
It doesn't necessarily,
Yeah.
but it could be based upon the frequency of that behavior. And then the other thing the big change in there is under 6, section 6. There's the new language there for behavior rules and conduct standards, which basically gives us the same ability as the linear approach of the previous code, but it allows us to investigate and make decisions based upon each individual case rather than the written referral. And it should be noted that we did have 2 violations this year that resulted in loss of competition. We had a vaping incident, and then we also had a behavioral incident that occurred in the Lamira gym at a basketball game that resulted in a suspension of play. And we replaced all Tier 3 with co-curricular code violations. This is the alcohol, tobacco, that's that part of the code. So that language has changed from Tier 3 to co-curricular conduct violation. And then one of the new things that I do is under Section 6, there used to be a mandatory fall sports meeting. And if you didn't go to that, you had to watch a video and sign the code agreement. What I'm doing under Section 6, and I started doing this immediately after I got hired last year, was go to all the individual sport player-parent meetings, and I take 5-10 minutes to go over the points of emphasis in the co-curricular code of conduct. So I have a 1-page document that I go over. So in the mandatory fall meeting that I've attended for numerous years in the past, parents are on their phones, kids are on their phones, they're not paying great attention. This way I get a captive audience in front of each individual sport team. Now what happens when a parent's not there at that meeting? They're still responsible for the code of conduct agreement. They have to have that signed in as a requirement to participate.
That's actually, that's exact experience that I have with parents. They don't have like some giant
Those
group meeting.
Yeah, I've been through all of them. We've had huge gymnasiums filled with people, and there's talking and there's not a lot of paying attention. So this way, I get a captive audience in front of each of the sport teams. The coach hears the points of emphasis from me, as well as all the parents and the players that are involved. I did put in there that a designee could be there in my stead. But for example, in the fall sports season, when I'm coaching in the evening, I have my assistants will be covering practice for me while I run off to these different parent meetings to discuss the code with them. So it doesn't change any of the requirements. They're still responsible for the entire code, but it's just a way for me to get a captive audience in front of the majority of our parents. And we did include the new requirement based upon the 2019 school registration fees, how have to be collected. That's also in our parent-student handbook under fees in that section as well, because all of the fees for the 2019 school year have to be paid in addition to the sport fees in order to participate. So it's just an opportunity for us to stay proactive and make sure we're collecting fees. So we included that in our co-curricular handbook as well as in our parent-student handbook.
So if someone gets caught for vaping, what percentage of the season is that by?
That would be a 25% for your first offense, 50% for the second.
I still don't see why we don't take a look at any kid who comes forward and says that they've got a problem with either alcohol, drugs, or anything that immediately would, we should praise those types of things.
There still is the self-reporting clause in there. When a kid makes a mistake, it gets reduced from 25% to 10%.
Okay.
So,
I still
and
think that even that is
Yeah.
not good enough. I think that at some point as a society, we need to get to, if somebody's calling for help,
We
that
gotta
we
help.
should never,
Right.
ever take them out of something that
Can
is
help
keeping them motivated
They can-
to
but they can
do
always-
things. And I think that something should be, even though it might be WIAA rules, I think maybe at some point we should lead the school districts and say, you know what, something like that.
we are
That's what
very,
we need to encourage
yeah.
is ways to get off that type of stuff, so.
Well, we try to be very proactive with my Interact letter winners group. We talk about those types of things, sportsmanship and whatnot, but that is just a societal problem that we have.
Sure,
to deal
vaping
with.
is a much more higher problem.
It's
than,
crazy.
It is nuts right
It
now,
is
and
unbelievable.
from what I'm hearing about how many kids are doing this in our school district
Oh.
today, I'm shocked.
No.
And,
It's
but-
unfortunate. I've had conversations with the Mayville Police Department. They tell me
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
places are really good about checking IDs
I
in
don't
that
think
zone.
we should be a society that sits there and shuns each and every person. We should be a society that looks to change, and I think that at some point, I hope we as a school district could lead in trying to figure out how to change that And this, just sitting there throwing rules, oh, you're doing this, that's
I
the
know.
dumbest thing ever.
That